Eric, super excited to have you here. Thanks for joining.
Awesome, Mike. Great to chat with you today.
So, as background for the audience, could you just tell us about your journey at OpenGov? Like, what attracted you to the company and what's kept you excited about the mission?
Sure, yeah. So joined OpenGov about 8.5 years ago. As we say, it was kind of two guys and a trick duck in a garage. And way back when our focus was kind of financial transparency, right? But what attracted me originally to the company and the GovTech space really as a whole was just the opportunity and understanding the status quo for these governments and the need for modern cloud tools to allow governments to do better work. So through my journey there, obviously been able to be fortunate enough to lead regions and teams and now oversee the entire revenue organization. But really the vision and just the opportunity that's out there to help serve governments, bring modern cloud-based tools, to what we feel, and I think what many feel is really the most important industry in the world.
100%. Yeah. And it seems like it's a super interesting time in history to be doing what you're doing too, right? Like you had the cloud wave and now the AI wave. I'm curious to know, what do you believe now that you didn't when you first started out?
Yeah, for sure. I think, look, as the I'll take it from like a go-to-market perspective, but as an individual contributor, right? You always get caught up in like, hey, I need more of this, I need more accounts, I need more, territory, and it's like it's a feeling of abundance, right? That's the only way that you can be successful. But my belief in having worked here and seeing our success and using data and identifying governments that we need to work with and should be working with us, right, is like it's really a data-driven approach that is successful in a verticalized vertical SaaS company that is serving one industry. I think the second thing as a leader is really building tenure and building teams from within, right? So when you think about your talent strategy and government is a market that rewards tenure and thinks in time horizons of decades and generations, right? And we do think that we're a generational company. So when you align your talent strategy and your people strategy to that, and do so by bringing up your people from within, right? It's a pretty cool thing. I think a lot, historically people think, hey, I got to go hire a bunch of outside talent, bring them in, and get a bunch of mercenaries or what have you. And it's actually the opposite, right? It's like, sure, you can support your talent strategy from the outside, but building tenure, building people from within, building career paths, and building that longevity mirrors how the market and your customers think about the world as well.
Oh, that's super interesting. Yeah, I think mirroring your customer is super important. To follow up on something you said on the abundance point, I've heard folks say when every time if we have reps that have thousands of accounts, if we make them focus on fewer accounts, we actually get better results. And I think sometimes from a rep's perspective, that might feel weird because it feels like your TAM as a rep is shrinking. So I'm curious, how do you think about that? Have you seen focus is better, or is it not necessarily the case?
100% focus is the way to go and better. Every time we as a company have continued to drive focus, drive depth, the impact has just been, it ratchets up every single time. We went originally, you talk about kind of like the journey at OpenGov. When I joined, we were 1 to maybe 1.5 product suites, right? We're now about to be 8 enterprise suites across all different offices, all different personas, in government. And, we used to have, sales reps that would sell everything, right? And they would have these really big territories. As we have, as a forcing function, asked our teams or required our teams to focus, go a mile deep instead of a mile wide into, sets of accounts. The results have been through the roof. And every time that we've kind of, turned the dial a little bit or done different things to increase that focus in certain areas, the results speak for themselves.
Why do you think that is? Like, is it people get to know the territory and the prospect customers better? Like, what drives that?
Yeah, for sure. So a couple things. Yeah, one is obviously like, knowing the movers and shakers, right, in a region, right, from people to the professional orgs, right, the state level regulations and compliance, right, that often impact the need that drives technology, right. Being able to understand customer stories at a very deep level, and I think overall, like, this is just a market that rewards subject matter expertise, right? And quite frankly, knowing your stuff. So by having our teams, and this is not just sales, but this is our solutions engineering and customer success and marketing, right? And support and on and on and on. It's like knowing the depth of the subject matter, knowing the region by region trend, state by state, it's kind of even down to the county by county level. Knowing the key people, that's really what drives the success. Knowing the competitors, right? Knowing the competitors and knowing how to talk the talk and walk the walk against who you're going to see or what you're going to see.
Yeah, I love that. And by the way, I think that's something that AI is going to really make more efficient, because I imagine today it
Totally.
takes a long time to learn all that stuff. And I think, that's one of the things that with Pursuit, we hope to enable your team to do more, is to, even allow the junior people on your team to get up to speed on procurement rules and how, the context that every individual government has. One thing I'd love to ask you about next is how have the customers evolved? Like, what's different about them? Like, as you walk through the cloud transition now into AI, there's obviously there's some turnover in the public sector teams as well. Folks that are now leading IT teams or finance departments are, they kind of grew up with tech. So how has the customer base evolved?
Yeah, great question. So I look at it like BC and AC, before COVID and after COVID, right? Before COVID, to get a customer on a Zoom call or a Teams call was a foreign concept, right? If you wanted to meet with a government, you were going down to City Hall, right? You're flying in, you're bringing the team, kind of the whole nine. COVID really changed the world, right? It was a forcing function to make everybody think differently, right? From remote work, and I'm speaking in generalizations here, but the advent of remote work, right? Hopping on a Zoom call or a Teams call became a lot more standard and the norm, right? And with that, follow that cloud transition, that digital transformation as well, where previously you may have had to sell the customers on cloud, right? You might say, hey, here's why cloud is better than custom developed software or on-prem software, right? And now it's like, that's table stakes, right? Like modern feature-rich software that's cloud-based that's table stakes, right? You're not necessarily selling on the cloud vision anymore, and so the customers become actually more sophisticated, right? In terms of they are very educated coming into conversations in terms of the market analysis that they've done, or the research that they've done, or who they have seen at trade shows and industry events or on listservs. And then it's a lot more noisy, right? If you go out and you look at a lot of the companies that are out there, and we have competitors galore across the board, company wide, on our individual kind of product suites. It can be noisy, right? And it can be hard to differentiate. And that is certainly something that we see with different copycats and whatnot. And you have to drive a certain level of excellence and that depth and understanding of priorities and understanding of the customer's world to be able to actually go in and begin to differentiate and talk about, hey, here's how we're different. Here's how we see the world differently, and things like that.
Totally. Yeah, it's funny. I think copycats are a gift. They actually force you to level up and think harder about everything you do. On the what I'd love to move to next is, so we talked about how the market's evolved and how customers evolved, how your product suite's evolved. Talk to us about your go-to-market team. Like, what does it look like today? How does marketing and business development and sales and customer success, how do you think about each of those teams? How do they work together? And also, like, to the extent you can talk about it, like how it's evolved over time.
Yeah, for sure. How I would say how it's evolved, like thinking about it from inside of our four walls, is when we talk about like the focus, right? When we drive focus, but we also orient ourselves around the customer journey, right? And how a customer, researches, evaluates, decides, implements, renews, right? All of those parts of the customer journey and the activities that they do. That's how we orient ourselves here. And then when you think about like the focus and the problems that we're solving, we try to make it a well-oiled machine, right? And we've developed our own kind of internal methodology, right? You've got all these different methodologies and things that exist out in the wild, from Challenger and Force and what have you. And we kind of looked at all of them and we said, there are in part and parcel, some of these are really good, but like we are such a unique company solving unique challenges that like we need to develop our own. And I give exactly. We pull pieces and like we take the Lego blocks and we build our own thing. That is our Govology, methodology. So that's how we orient all of our teams, both pre-sale, front of funnel, marketing, demand gen, to our sales development team, to our account executives and solution engineering, through to professional services, implementation, customer success, support, right? So you can just kind of follow it on and on. We are, there's no sugarcoating it. This is a very complex market, right? And, and the better cohesion and handoffs and transfer of information that you can pass and move amongst teams, the better impact you're ultimately going to make for the customer.
Totally. That makes a ton of sense. And it's a good segue actually into, I think back to when you and I first met at that conference. You always believed in data. Like you always believed in AI. I didn't have to convince you of that at all. So let's talk about that. When you think about like your go-to-market machine, how does data and the intelligence that Pursuit is able to bring to the table, how does that help you guys drive revenue or be more efficient?
Totally. As you scale up, right, you're always looking at like, inputs and dollars in and dollars out and what's the return on what you're investing in or the activities. I think about it this way, a dollar spent on data today saves $10 on unnecessary, hiring or process tomorrow, and $100 on opportunities you never know you may have missed, right? So that's that's something that certainly speaks volumes to the importance of data, right? And when you are in a vertical SaaS company, right, that's serving one market, right? Hey, there's not, startup cities and startup villages and counties that are just cropping up overnight. There's a finite number of state agencies and cities and counties and special districts that exist, right? And that's your market, right? So when we think about data and developing a perspective on prospective customers, our current customers, things like propensity to buy, right? And just being way more educated and data focused, it allows us, to orient and direct our teams, to the right activities as opposed to, wasted motions.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, one of the things with radar too is it actually does it helps what you described earlier, where you can go deeper faster. Like basically within 2 seconds, a rep can now be prepped for every single account that they walk into a meeting with, the same way they might have a consultant or a lobbyist say like, hey, here's what's been going on. Here's all the projects they have in motion. This is part of this strategic plan. It ties back to this objective that, that the city council has set out. Here's the budget that they've talked about, that they've proposed, that they've approved. So all that data, it used to take, I actually think it was probably impossible to sift through before, but now it's just like you can get it in just a moment.
Absolutely. I mean, it would for a field-facing individual, whether that's account executive or a customer success manager, an SDR, to take their set of accounts or their prospects or their current customers and sift through all those budget books and strategic plans. This is not hyperbole or exaggeration. It would be impossible for them to get through all of those things for their set of accounts and still do their day job, right? They would spend all their time researching. And when you and I first kind of talked, and when you speak about radar, it's like to make things simple and actionable and do it in 1/1000th of the time that it would take is really just a force multiplier, right? And a force multiplier for us as well.
Yeah. So one last thing I want to ask you about. It's like tactical in the go-to-market context is, you have a funnel, right? And at the top of the funnel, you already talked about this. You have all the state agencies and boards and commissions. You got cities, counties, K-12 districts, higher ed, and special districts. And depending on how you're counting, there's like north of 100,000 of all of those. And the thing that I find so interesting is figuring out, like, from that TAM, who's actually obtainable, right? Maybe someone else is in a contract, maybe they don't have budget, maybe they're too small, maybe they got other priorities. So the thing, when you think about that first step of the funnel, it's like, who should you be actually investing your time with? And if you invest your time chasing the wrong accounts, let's say you had 10 accounts and 5 of them were actually obtainable, 5 of them were not, it's like your rep is working half the time. So I'd be curious from your perspective, how do you think about the funnel and what matters at each of the steps?
Yeah, totally. And to underscore like the importance of your TAM to your the TAM to your product market fit to ICP, right? And working down to that level. I mean, we have a saying here, it's like every good deal dies twice. And really, now it's like 4 or 5 times, right? Between internal politics, not having the right people, in the room, budget cuts or constraints, like you said, competing priorities or competitive solutions, right? Like, hey, if you're closing 18 to 20%, of your opportunities as an account executive, like, you're fucking killing it. You're market leading, and that's just and that's kind of the nature of the business. But when we think about how do we go from, oh, I think these 10 would be great, to, well, it's actually really these 5, right? It's getting educated around that ideal customer profile, right? That ICP, and developing a perspective on that. And obviously, look, we've used Pursuit, and we've used first party data, third party data. We use a ton of different tools to really develop that perspective on ICP, which is evolving, and a bunch of different metrics from kind of all over the place, to really understand propensity to buy, and truthfully, like you said, right, it's like sometimes it takes, it's a very complex market. It takes a lot of elbow grease to get somebody into the funnel, right, through the funnel, closed, right, an actual contract and PO out the door. That, like, any wasted motion is just time and money wasted, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Totally. So last thing before we wrap, I wanted to just kind of spitball about the future for a sec. I think in the post that where you guys announced that you were now CRO, I think I read that OpenGov is heading to 10,000 governments. That's the target, for the future. What do you think it takes to get there? Like, what do you guys have to continue doing? Anything you have to evolve on? What's that look like?
Yeah, for sure. So 2,000 now, on our way to 10,000 asterisk at least, right? We will surpass that, one day. But look, AI first, like no bones about it. An AI first company strategy that is both inside of our four walls and to our customers as well, right? So this next evolution, right? Look, we're a leader in the space, and I think the market views us the same, and we want to be the AI leader as well. We very much are investing in things ourselves. We're bringing on partners and tools a la Pursuit. We are listening to the market and our customers on how they think about AI and the role of AI in the future. So I think that is number one, above and beyond. The second, I would say, is continuing to scale and grow and what we call smart growth or growth endurance, right? We've always we've always taken the position of responsibly growing, right? We're not in the business of hiring a bunch of 100 reps and cutting half of them by the end of the year, right? Like we try to skate to where the puck is going, and resource our teams and our talent appropriately. And as I talked about, like our internal talent strategy, fully aligns to that, right? So when we bring people in that are either fresh out of college or they're our SDRs or making a career jump or wherever it may be, and they want to get into enterprise software, gov tech, and then we're moving them through, kind of through our talent pipeline, giving them career opportunities and career progression. That's a huge thing, right? And that allows us to have that growth endurance and to have a training ground and a bench of talent that we are just consistently moving through and allowing people to kind of grow their careers and grow honestly their personal lives and do all the things that they want to do and achieve in service of on our way to 10,000 governments, right? And then I think the last thing is when we think about bringing it back to like data and intelligence is, knowing, look, we've got 8 enterprise suites of software right now across all different offices in the government. That will continue to grow and evolve. We need to have our ear to the customer, to our customers, to the ground, to prospective customers, to maybe areas that we aren't even in yet, and really understand like what this evolution is going to look like, whether it's AI, federal funding, Doge, infrastructure, you name it, right? Knowing and understanding and using data, perspective and insights to make those decisions in terms of how do we continue to make that impact for our customers, and what we believe is incredible market opportunity.
Yeah, no, it's funny, all three of those things I feel talking to you guys. I think the point about the team is phenomenal. Like everyone I've worked with at OpenGov has been amazing, super talented and like technically savvy, but also cares massively about the country and the governments that they serve. So that's been a total pleasure working with you. I'm such a fun talk, man. Thanks for joining. I'm pumped for the next 10 years ahead. Let's go get it.
Likewise, Mike. Yeah, appreciate you all in Pursuit and getting to know you. And I think you all are a very talented team and group of folks. And man, you can build some software pretty darn quickly. So we appreciate that as well, and looking forward to going on the journey with you.
All right, man. Take care. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, Mike.